When I first came to Nashville, I wanted to be a female John Mayer. I was like, hey, I love playing the guitar and I love writing songs. I feel like the writing process was me sitting in a room, either by myself or with friends, being like, can I say that though? Like, can I actually say that? So this was like one of the biggest moments. It's on TV, and Brayley and I are playing our song. They just got #1. It was so exciting, and I couldn't hear anything.
If you ask me, I'm not jaded, but I'm 2 seconds from
Lindsay Ell on the podcast. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited to dive into this conversation. I'm curious. You're in the middle of a bit of a tour. Can you tell us about some of the shows that you've done over the last few days and kind of what's coming up for you?
Yeah, it's been amazing to be able to bring a lot of this music that I've been working on over the past couple years to life. We kicked off this tour in London, and then just played a couple shows in Canada last week, and have a show coming up in Nashville. And it's just so amazing. It always kind of baffles my mind. Like, I put my heart and soul into these songs when I write them, and then get fortunate enough to release them into the world. And it baffled my mind that they just find people from all over the world. And in our London show, people traveled from all over Europe. I mean, my show in Vancouver, people flew in from London and Taiwan to be there. And I'm just like, this is crazy. It makes me feel so grateful. And to be able to bring these songs to life, I mean, it as a songwriter is a whole other dimension to the whole process. So it's been a really, really great start to the tour so far.
100%. Yeah. Tell us about the writing process. What was it like creating this record?
Honestly, the writing process, I've written about a lot of things that I haven't written about before. So I feel like the writing process was me sitting in a room, either by myself or with friends, being like, can I say that though? Like, can I actually say that? And honestly, most of the most honest songs I've written over the past, few decades, really, have been the ones that have connected the most. So at this point in my songwriting career, I really just try to write exactly what's on my heart and exactly what's on my mind, and hope that if I'm honest enough with myself, then that's something that will connect to somebody else out there who maybe is going through a similar thing.
100%. Yeah. How do you navigate that? Obviously, maintaining some degree of privacy and also wanting to be vulnerable and writing something relatable. Yeah. What's your approach to kind of striking that balance and not getting in your head about the things that are out in the world?
My approach is always write the thing that feels the scariest, and you can always edit it later. Um,
Yeah.
I have a very intense editor brain who always loves to chirp in and loves to jump in. But I really try to just like make that person sit in a chair. They say never put baby in the corner, but I make my editor sit in the corner until I'm done a song enough to the point where I can be like, okay, now let's take a look at all these lines that I was like, I don't know if I could say that though. And usually those are the things that make it really real. Or those are the lines that people come back to me and are like, I'm so glad you wrote this into a song. So when it hits that sort of alarm bell in my brain of being like, can you put this in a song? That's when I usually know I'm onto something good, actually.
This podcast is really a labor of love, and the function is really to share the incredible stories and inspiration to help you along your journey as a musician. If you want to help the show, one of the best ways that you can do it is to click the subscribe button below, leave us a comment, or leave us a like. That helps tell YouTube to spread this to more people like you. In addition to that, we've been thinking about different ways that we can add more value to our community and viewers here. So what we've done is we've created a totally free community where we're adding a bunch of bonuses and extras. Things like tablatures from the episodes, behind the scenes content. Like I said, it's totally free. If that's interesting to you, click the link below in the description and we'll see you over there. With that, let's get back into the show.
What were the things that were the edgiest for you in this latest record?
Being really vulnerable about parts of my story, like by the ups and downs of my career, ups and downs of past relationships. Honestly, where I'm at right now in terms of I'm in my 30s and most of my friends are married and have kids, and I still don't know if I want to have kids. And I'm at this weird part of life where I know as a woman, we have biological clocks and a finite time in which we can actually make that decision. And I still don't know. I still don't know. I'm out on the road following my dreams and chasing them like effervescently, and it doesn't feel like the right time right now to start having a family. And yet I know that I need to make that decision soon,
Yeah.
because if I don't, then I'll run out of road, so to speak. And
Mm.
so that's just been a topic that has been on my brain a lot. And I walked into a writing session with the idea to write that song. And my co-writers, specifically one of my producers, Doug Schott, uh, was like, "Have you ever heard about the fence sitter Reddit board?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And I love Reddit. I love Redditors. I just think it's just such an amazing and smart place of the internet, and also very funny. And he's like, "You should go on this Reddit board. And if you go on Reddit and type in fence sitter, r/fence sitter, you can see 80,000 people discussing on this board of, I want kids, I don't want kids, I'm on the fence, I just don't
Mm.
know." And I loved it so much. And we in the right, like, read this board for hours, just being so amazed and like taken into people's stories. And so it was like, we need to write fence sitter into the song. And it was just so pivotal to the whole song that I was like, this is what we need to call the song. And so that was a very vulnerable thing that I'm still living now to this day. Actually, it's been fun singing this song live, because I'm like, here's to the questions we ask ourselves. And I even made a hat at my merch table that says, "I don't know," because I just don't know. And I think it's actually really beautiful to celebrate I don't know, and celebrate the moments and the things that we ask ourselves in lives that we don't have the answers to. I was raised as such a nerd and a good student, and I always wanted to find the correct answer. And I've noticed in my adult life, I'm still looking for the correct answer sometimes. And sometimes there either isn't one, or you just don't know yet. And
Yeah.
so at this point in my life, I'm really trying to celebrate the I don't know, and celebrate sitting in some of those questions without an answer, and truly being like a fence sitter, like sitting on top of the fence, not on either side, but just on top of the fence, being like, I don't know which way it's going to go. I just don't have that answer yet. And knowing that that's okay.
Yeah, it's so relatable. I'm also in my mid 30s and same questions. It's nice to hear a song that reflects sort of the experience of being an aging millennial. Like what
Yeah.
is one doing? Yeah. Yeah, I feel
Honestly,
that.
it's like life just kind of flies past you, and then
Yeah.
you notice you're in your 30s, like you said, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm supposed to have everything together right now, and I definitely don't.
Yeah. Yeah, it's also one of these like uh, they always say like your intuition will tell you one way or another. And it sounds like in your
Mhm.
case, it's like a lot of times the question is like it's kind of a heart or a head question. It's like, oh, is it practical versus like what do I feel? And
Mhm.
for you, it seems like the question is like both. It's like heart versus heart. It's like my heart is in music, and maybe my heart is in kids as well. Who knows? So I can understand why that would be challenging. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, it's a confusing thing, because it's like, for sure there are moments in life that, if we view it as a column A, you have kids, column B, you don't have kids. There are
Yeah.
constantly moments in life that are like, one tick for this column, one tick for this column, one tick for this column. And I think that's normal for anybody in life. But right now it feels very confusing, and it's almost like I'm so happy with where my life is at and the things I'm working towards and the things I'm working on. But I'm almost scared of having the regret of, if I keep going along this path and keep saying just not yet, not yet. Um, will I regret? Will I run out of road and regret that one day? And that's obviously something that I'll never know until I'm there. But yeah,
100%.
heavy, hard hitting questions.
Yeah. the most relevant question. One of the things that's really interesting about this record as I was listening to it is it's such a cool diversion from the previous records that you've made. Sonically and in terms of subject matter, it feels way more honest, and I, I might dare to say that there are a lot more like bops on this one. Like this record slaps, Lindsay,
Thank
and
you.
so
Thank you so
it's
much.
it's cool. Can you talk about the change of direction, if you felt it as a change of direction, and what the decision was to create this record, as opposed to maybe continuing down a track that you were previously on?
Yeah, I feel like the music I've made has always just been me trying to show up as I am. And thankfully I've been surrounded by some very incredible producers and um team members who have helped try to lead me in a direction. When I first came to Nashville, I wanted to be a female John Mayer. I was like, hey, I love playing the guitar and I love writing songs. And there's this guy John Mayer who does both of those things really well. So that's the direction I'm going. And then I got offered a country record deal and I just didn't look back. I was like, country music is a very wide genre, and it's a very wide road, and I'm just going to show up as myself, and even if I'm like a little left of center, then who cares? My music will find a way to fit. And um so many of my favorite artists within country music were always a little bit left of center, and really when I look at some of my favorite artists of all time, John being one of them, Sheryl Crow being one of them, they didn't really end up in a genre. Sure, they had albums or records that would lean one way or another, but when you look at who they are, they're like, oh no, it's just Sheryl Crow. Like Cheryl is Cheryl. She doesn't really have a genre. She is herself. And although I know that labels and teams and marketing people and DSP libraries like all love or all need a genre to file music. Otherwise, it would just be a catastrophic mess in a library. Like if you don't have sections in a library, how are you going to find anything? So I do know that is important. And so I just said yes to a record deal. And then for a decade, I was zigzagging around the world on some of the most incredible tours ever, getting to meet so many fans, getting to release music to the radio. And I was so, so happy. And then near the end of that first deal, I felt that my brain was being pulled in the direction of what I thought was going to be successful and what I thought was going to be do commercially well compared to what I really wanted to make in my heart. And when those two things started fighting, I was like, all right, it's time to get real, like get really real of what is the art I want to make and where does that need to land? I wish that music doesn't need to land somewhere, but like I said, I do think that there is some sort of organization that is important. Otherwise, everything would just be chaos. I do think that it is really nice to see in the past few years artists making a record that, Beyonce is a great example. Like she makes a country record and then she makes a hip hop record and then she makes a pop record. Like it doesn't matter. An artist can do whatever they want. So I love it being more project focused in a way, but my career, it did feel like, all right, I need to look at this a different way. And I saw it less of changing a direction and more of like an expansion of, okay, how can I make music that feels authentic, make music that is what I want the world to hear, and when I walk into a studio, what I'm inspired to make, and and also is stuff that my fans resonate with, and maybe can connect me to future fans that would connect with this music too in a real way. And so at that point when I felt like I was being forced to make music that would be successful compared to making music that was really on my heart, that's when I asked out of my record deal. And I knew I needed to make a lot of changes to my team. And it was so scary because I felt like I was shooting myself in the foot. Like I had all this beautiful success and had been on all of these amazing tours. And I just felt like it didn't feel right anymore. I was trying to make music that was a certain thing compared to just making music that was myself.
Mm.
And that didn't feel authentic. And I hope that whenever I make art, or whenever anybody makes art, it's a self-expression. It's a place of self-expression. I think that's what art is, what it's supposed to be. And I just felt that art was becoming this thing that I was just trying to make something that was going to be successful. And I'm like, okay, I do know that there's this like whimsical world of art over here. And then there's the commercial world that is like a huge marketing money machine. And the ideal place is where they meet in the middle.
Yeah.
And so ideally it's amazing when you can like find this wonderful place where they can weave in and out of each other. But I was finding myself way too over here, and so I just needed to bring it back, and that felt like I needed to rebuild my team and honestly rebuild everything from the ground up again. So
Yeah.
it was incredibly terrifying, but I am so grateful that I have found the team that I have. I feel so supported. I feel like I'm making music that feels real and feels like who I am. Um, and that is my number one. You know, that's the point of doing any of this. So I don't think my fans who fell in love with my music from day one would really feel a difference, because at the end of the day I've just tried to make records and projects that feel very authentic and do feel that form of self-expression, and all of them have been extensions of me. But when I felt from the creation process that just my brain was being pulled in a weird direction, that's where I needed to make all this change. So my inner world, my team, my business structure has like completely changed, but the music I'm making is just evolving. I think, you know, I love hearing you say that there's lots of bops. I love, like, the most of the music I listen to right now is alternative, indie rock, alternative pop music, and so I love that you think there are some bops on this record, and I can't wait to
Yeah.
hear I can't wait for you to hear what I've been working on.
Additionally, we've been thinking about cool ways that we can add more value to our community here. And our nerdy team over here has come up with a really cool new software tool for you. Basically, it's a slow down and looping tool for all of the platforms that you learn guitar on. It lives in your browser on top of YouTube and Instagram, and it allows you to slow things down, loop different sections so you can really focus and learn things from all of these videos. It's a super cool tool. I use it every single day myself, and we want to give it to you as the viewer for free. So all you need to do is click the link below, register for that, install it on your computer, and that is our gift to you. So with that, we'll get back into the episode.
I'm excited to hear it too. Yeah, I'm curious about this. There's sort of like an infrastructural change. When you were under the record label, I imagine they sort of provide all these services. It is entrepreneurial in a sense, but it's also you know, you're entering into a system that's pre-established. When you break out on your own, and shout out Stephanie on your team, like, you're having to hire all these people and sort of strap the wheels on yourself. What was that process like for you? How did you navigate that?
Honestly, it's like when there's a will, there's a way. And it's been interesting because a friend of mine and I were talking, and she was like, Lindsay, when you're building anything, it takes a lot. But you need to remember that you're building your second ladder. Like, you already climbed a ladder and you're building your second ladder. And you can't forget all of that hard work that went into the first ladder. And so this second ladder that I've been building, you bring all the things that you learned the first time, but now I just really try to find teammates that align with like my heart and align with who I am, and are people that I would call friends in this life and that I respect in life in a real way. Not saying that my previous team wasn't that as well, but I feel like going forward, I really get to handpick everything, and also pick a team that is like, we believe in you for your vision and we want to support that wherever that takes you, which has been so cool. It's amazing now to have a label group who truly believes in me as a human and wants to bring my vision to life. It's I think it's very rare to find, but I I would encourage anybody when they're looking for people to work with, that they need to believe in you as a human, not just a product that you release.
Yeah, 100%. It's super cool and very bold, and it worked great. The product that you put out, this record, is truly great. I wanna back up if you don't mind. This is so a lot of the folks that watch Playback are music nerds, and maybe one of the few audiences on the internet that who would know who folks like Chet Atkins and Lenny Burrow and Randy Bachman are, which is sort of the lineage. And I'm curious about your upbringing and your entrance into music, and specifically your the things that you learned under Randy Bachman. Would you be open to speaking to that?
Yeah, Randy became like another dad to me. I met Randy through a songwriting buddy of mine at the time, and then started working with him when I was 13. I would fly out to Salt Spring Island where he was living at the time, and would write songs. My dad would fly out with me, and in the summers I would go to write songs. He was really the one who taught me how to write a song and how to record in the studio, and introduced me to Gibson guitars way back then, and officially discovered me, got me started. I remember the first time Randy came over to my house. My parents were big Guess Who and BTO fans, and he pulls up in this stretch limo, and my mom's freaking out because she wants the house to be clean. And he came in and was the nicest, down to earth guy, and put his feet up on the coffee table, and he's like, "Let's write a song." And Randy was just always such a big champion, and we've still kept in touch to this day. We still write songs. He was in Nashville a few months ago, and we were writing, and I love him to death, and I feel like I my career path would not have been what it was without Randy in my life. And guitar wise, I remember those first few writing sessions, I would see him play like all these crazy jazz chords up and down the neck because he learned how to play guitar from Lenny Bro.
Mm.
And I would just sit there and be like, "Randy, what is that? That's so cool." And he's like, "Well, let me show you." And so he was the one who really got my brain turned on to jazz chords and utilizing the full neck. Also got me listening to Jimi Hendrix and Stevie Ray Vaughan and Eric Clapton, and sort of opened up my whole world, guitar brain wise, to blues and rock and pop guitar.
Hmm. Do you remember what that learning process was like for you when you were a kid? Were you the type of kid that would practice a lot, or was it just learning songs?
Yeah, I practiced a lot. I sat in my bedroom and played guitar for hours and hours and hours on end. And I just thought it was so cool. I started playing piano first. I started with classical piano. And then after a couple years of that, I thought it was a lot cooler to play guitar where you could play any song imaginable. And so I started off. My dad had a Strat around the house, and he put his Strat into my hands and taught me the intro to Stairway to Heaven, I think, and that was the first song I ever learned. And then I'm like, "This is amazing." And then for a couple years, I got super into fingerstyle guitar. I discovered Tommy Emmanuel, and I was fascinated watching him play, like the way he would move and how he could play the bass line and the melody at the same time. And so I was into a lot of fingerstyle stuff early on. Um, and I think that's why when Randy first met me, he was like, "She's like a young female Chet Atkins." And because that's how he first met me. And then when I started working with Randy, I loved electric guitar, and watching Jimi Hendrix, who still is one of my favorite players to this day, was just the coolest thing ever to me. And so I would practice all the time. I took a few lessons when I was just starting to play around 8 years old, but then I would just learn from other musicians or from YouTube. I would just learn whatever I could, and I didn't really put my guitar down.
That's so awesome. Yeah, and I feel like the final boss of guitar is playing at an arena or a stadium, which it sounds like you've done a fair bit of in your time, obviously touring with Shania Twain and others. Can you talk about what your first experience was playing in front of an audience of tens of thousands of people?
Yeah, my first time playing in a stadium was, I believe, CMA Fest. Brantley and I just had What Happens in a Small Town out, and I remember we played the stage in the middle of an arena that, I had sang the anthem for different games in a stadium before, and the echo is real intense. But I remember when we played that song for CMA Fest, my pack, like my in-ear pack, went down, and the echo when you play in front of a stage with a full PA system is very intense. It's very loud. Like, it's one thing in a sporting match when you have a mic in the middle of a stadium, but when you have a full-fledged PA just going at a mile a minute and you're in front of that, it is very disorienting. And so this was like one of the biggest moments. It's on TV, and Braylon and I are playing our song, and it just got number one. And it was so exciting, and I couldn't hear anything. In fact, I could hear the echo, which is so much worse than not hearing anything because you hear everything delayed. And I remember talking to him afterwards. I was like, "Could you hear anything?" And his mix was all mixed up too. And so I remember we were just looking at each other and like watching each other's mouths move to try to be on beat. And thankfully, watching it back, it all looked like it was fine. And so I guess, no one will ever think anything of it. But that was my first time playing in a stadium, and I was so terrified. I remember walking off stage being like, did the worst thing ever just happen? Um, but playing in a stadium is so exciting. It's so wild. It's I always say the hardest shows to play are the smallest shows. Like when I play a show for 20 people, that is so much harder than playing for 80,000 people. It's so much
Mm,
harder. Cuz playing for a big group of people, it's more just it's very isolating. It almost feels like you're in your living room with a lot of
mm.
spectators obviously, but
It's a weird
compared to
living room.
playing for 20 people, yeah, you
Mhm.
can see them breathe and blink, and you can get like an instant reaction of what they're feeling. And so I feel more pressure playing for smaller audiences than bigger audiences. So playing for a stadium is like the ultimate in so many ways. And yeah, playing with Shania these past couple years has been so fun. We opened for her in 2023, and then in 2024, when she was making some changes to her band, she called and asked if I would want to play lead guitar for her. And I was like, how can you say no to the queen? And it has been one of the coolest dreams that I never thought I was going to have in my life, to be honest. And she is so wonderful. Obviously was my childhood hero, the reason why I started singing. And
Mm.
now to be able to play those same songs with her on stage, 2 feet away from her, the original songs that I started to learn how to sing
Yeah.
before, it's a very weird full circle loop. And this year we're getting to play Wembley Stadium opening up for Harry Styles, which is so crazy.
Unreal.
It's so crazy to even say that sentence. Wembley Stadium has been on my bucket list ever since I was a tiny human, and knowing that we have 12 shows there, let alone to play there 12 times, let alone to be able to watch Harry Styles 12 times, I'm like, sign me up. I will be the last person to leave.
How did you get on her radar for that gig?
Honestly, through my amazing team, I have a really good agent,
Yeah.
and we knew of each other. I think we played a festival was where we first met each other.
Mm.
I got to meet her and tell her how much of an influence she's had on my entire life, and thankfully she has the best team on the face of the planet, um, and yeah, magic just happened from there. But it is very wild to think back. Yeah, gosh, the first time I met her was probably in 2022.
Mm.
And now how many crazy things have happened because of that first meeting is it's wild. It's like you
That's
can't actually
really wild.
manifest your life.
Yeah. Yeah. How much do you put stake in that? Like, did you envision this and sort of manifest it into your reality?
You know, I'm a huge manifester. I'm a huge meditator. I believe in a lot of woo-woo culture. I'm like very into that stuff. And
Yeah.
I I can't say I pictured it happening like this. I feel like um manifesting to me has become far more about, okay, how do you want your life to feel? And trying to really relish in that feeling and trying to live that feeling today. And in that sort of magnetism, that pulls you forward to create more of that in your future.
Yeah.
And so, did I see it happening like this? Definitely not. But have I been able to feel things that I have always wanted to feel and have been trying to create more of that in my life? Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's strange. I think when I was younger, I remember making vision boards and being like, okay, it needs to happen exactly like this. And as I get older and as I make more vision boards and write goals down, I try to hold on to them looser, or my goals are far less like descriptive pictures. Like I do have some descriptive things on there too, but I think I try to focus on more the feeling of it. And
What's on your vision
you
board
know,
now?
the oh my gosh, that's such a great question. Winning a Grammy has been my vision board since it's
Sick.
like five
I see
years
it
old.
happening.
So that one is just plastered every year. I'm like, you know what? We're just gonna keep plastering that one on. That one gets pretty specific, but also that can happen in so many different ways too, which I'm
Yeah.
so open towards. Playing a lot of different venues. Like with Shania, we got to play Glastonbury. Um, a few years ago, which was crazy and very, very cool. I've gotten to grace Madison Square Garden stage and so a lot of venues, a lot of legendary venues and historical venues have been on my bucket list, hence Wembley Stadium, which is wild that hopefully I'll be able to check that off this year. And what else is on my vision board? I mean, a lot personally too, just being able to craft a life that feels like it holds me. I think for so long I looked at my vision board and all of it was career stuff, every single piece of it. There were tour buses, there were lots of massive audiences, and I had nothing about my personal life. And as I get older, I'm like, oh, the one feeds the other and vice
Mhm.
versa. And I've read interviews of songwriters and artists that are like, when my career is going awesome, my personal life is going terribly, and the other way too. When my personal life is going awesome, my career is going terribly, and and I, although I have felt that extreme, I also know that fostering one also fosters the other, and so on my vision board now is a lot of things that I never would have thought would have been on my vision board. It's like time in the trees. Like I feel like I find myself when I can just get in nature. And so I make sure I do that really often. And when I do have downtime, I make time for that. And so that's as important on my vision board as is a Grammy, to be honest, because I feel like it's probably going to help me get there.
100%. 100%. Yeah, I'm curious. By the way, totally speaking my language, Bay Area person, like, yeah, the woo woo, the vision board, I'm with you. Uh,
What's on your
um,
vision board?
oh my
Now
gosh,
that
don't
I
even
talked
get me
about
started.
mine.
Yeah, the list is very long, but yeah,
Okay.
I feel the yeah, mid-30s kind of like priorities are very different now, and personal takes priority over career in a lot of areas because they're so interlinked. So I feel that. Um, I am curious. Um, maybe a more like philosophical question. What motivates you now? What are your drivers?
That's a great question. I feel now motivated by making art that is the purest form of self-expression that it can be. Um, it's so hard for my type A brain to not tie what I create to the outcomes that happen after. Um, but one of my creative heroes, Elizabeth Gilbert, she's one of my favorite authors, and um, I've been to see her a number of times because I just think she's so brilliantly smart. And she has said, you are not entitled to the outcomes of what you create. You are not entitled to the outcome of what you create. And I need to constantly remind myself of that because I get very, very tied to, but I put my heart and soul into this project. And why can't people see that? And it's like, no. You're not, that's not your job. That's like somebody else's job out here. Like success is not mine to determine. You know,
Mhm.
my job is to make the most honest piece of art that I can that will hopefully speak to somebody out there and will hopefully connect to somebody. And then I can only hope that timing and money and team and strategy all align so that it does go viral or it does hit millions of people's ears and they like what they hear. But I think right now, my goal and what I'm trying to focus on the most is making the most honest self-expression of where I'm at, which is hard, honestly.
Mm.
It's thinking of former bubbles that I've been in, like creative bubbles that I've been in, it's very easy to want to make music just because you think it will be successful.
Mm.
And and then making music that is a true form of self-expression. And so I'm just really trying to lean into the self-expression side, knowing that when it's right, it'll find the other one.
Yeah, yeah, it lands better. Why do you think it's the case that commercial music, like, has to commercially viable music just always has this veneer that feels inauthentic, and for some reason it's like the most palatable? What you've been inside of the machine and kind of seen how it works. Why is it that most of the stuff that comes out of like mainstream Nashville, especially, is like a particular form factor of polished and kind of I don't want to say soulless. That's not I don't mean that, but you know what I mean. It's like there's something that's like missing in the authenticity department.
I think that a lot of those songs that we may hear that feel soulless, if you said it, um, started from a place of authenticity, started from a place of somebody, songwriter, artist, whoever it may be, being like, this is what I want to say, and this is who I am. And then when something works, that is the scary part because then you just have a bunch of people riding on doing it again and trying to do it again fast. And that's not how art works. That's not how creativity works. And so I've been in it. Then you can be in meetings where you're like, all right, we need a song by next month. So you need to go. And then you're in a writing room being like, okay, well, how do we do this again if it worked before? And so I think that's why you see a lot of like rinse and repeat of the same things is if it's working, then why
Yeah,
change it? And
push the button again.
for some artists, honestly, it works for them and they're laughing their way to the bank. And so I don't think they care, to be honest. It's just like if that's what works for them and that's what their fans want to hear, then who am I or anybody else to judge that? I just know that I can't do that. That's just not who I am. And when I am writing songs and trying to make art that feels real, I have tried the rinse and repeat thing, but it just feels so inauthentically not me that
Mm.
I just can't wear that mask for too
Yeah.
long for at all actually anymore. I've just kind of thrown that mask in the sea and walked the other way.
Oh
And
my gosh, I'm
so
so much better
it
for it.
has made life like much more complicated, but I think that's the point of being on the
Yeah,
planet
yeah,
and
it's more honest.
searching for your true purpose is not cashing into something just because it's easy.
Yes, 100%. Yeah. Um, speaking of kind of where the zeitgeist is at and the conversation, I am curious what your thoughts are on AI, Suno, in studios, in writing sessions. Are you, yeah, where are you at with that?
I mean, AI is crazy. It's crazy to watch it take over. I mean, I feel like this is what people were saying about the internet I mean,
Mm.
how long ago was that? Like 3 decades ago?
Mm.
So to avoid it, I think is not the right thing to do because it's coming whether we like it or not, and it's changing so rapidly and it's learning so rapidly, and it's terrifying on one side of it, and on the other side of it, it's like, okay, how can I lean into it and learn how to use it to better my art and better what I do and help my team do their jobs. And so I've tried to um, I've tried to learn it from like an arm's length distance. I have tried Suno a little bit, mainly as like friends laughing about something and seeing what that program can really do. I don't use it in writes. I find right now the way I write a song best is like tuning in here compared to trying to work out my emotions with a computer talking back to me. I have used it for demos though. It's pretty crazy that you can put in a guitar vocal in an app and in 30 seconds it can give you like a full-fledged produce demo. And
Mm.
so will that help, you know, publicity teams or publishing teams be able to pitch ideas potentially, who knows. And so I just remember I was having a meeting with my BMI rep a few months ago, and he was like, this ain't going anywhere, you need to learn it, you just need to learn it. And so that's
Mhm.
when I was like, all right, I'll just start learning it. And so I have sort of taken it in, but just at an arm's length distance away. And
Yeah.
I definitely
Is it
want to be able to learn what those things can do and the capabilities of them. I will say that right now, they those apps can make music sound really good. Actually, lyric wise, they're just not
It's
there
trash.
yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not there
Totally.
yet. I'm sure they
Not there
will
yet.
get, which is terrifying to think, but
Yeah, the like covering feature where you give it a song that's already pre-written and has the like the essence of your artistry, and then it sort of demoifies it. Like that is it's pretty wild. It's pretty good. Yeah.
it is wild. It's going to be very interesting to see where the conversation goes with copyright and like taking a whole bunch of musicians' work and songwriters' work and then morphing ideas from those
Mm.
original ideas. And it's like, okay, how are songwriters going to get paid when people are writing new songs from their ideas? And so I'm
Right.
very, very interested in all of the AI conversations around copyright and
Yeah.
protecting songwriters, because I think that's a huge gray area right now that is kind of scary, to be honest.
Totally.
Of which I
So
will
the
be
labels are going to
on
be
the
great.
yeah, I will be on the songwriters side, obviously, but even hearing the debate of certain artists can opt in and people want to create songs that are in the style of this artist and then that artist gets paid, and so it's a very, very wild time to be alive, but it's not going anywhere. And so I think the craziest thing we could do is try to avoid it,
Mm.
because it's something that we have to deal with and it's something we have to talk about. So if anything, I think figuring out how we can use it and figuring out how we can create a system that protects songwriters and
Mm.
protects artists while being able to use some of these tools.
Yeah, totally. 100%. Yeah, it's a unprecedented time across creativity and across, I mean, honestly, every single industry. It's a really bizarre moment in human history. Um,
It really is. I was reading an article a couple days ago, and just yeah, in the next 1 to 5 years, it's going to be quite a wild change in a lot of industries.
everything, everything's gonna be upended.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
yeah, and yet
Hmm.
most people aren't tracking it, which is also scary. Um,
Yeah, but
in
I
more
do.
yeah. Oh, go
Well,
ahead.
I was going to say, like, I do keep in mind, like, the number one way that our society works is so that people have money to spend and to put back into society. And so there will
Right.
be some sort of system figured out, because that's the only way
Yeah.
um
So the only
that
thing
the
we've
world
figured out so
keeps
far.
spinning. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's like, okay, let's learn how to use these things and then learn how we can protect each other in it.
Exactly. Yeah. exactly. Especially artists. Yeah, especially artists. Yeah. In more optimistic areas of conversation, I'm curious about. There's a couple of threads I want to pull on. One is you toured with Brad Paisley for years. What was that like?
Oh my gosh, Brad is the best. He is the kindest. I mean, I was on tour with him for about a year and a half, and I look back to those shows as some of the fondest memories. He's the funniest. He is like totally mi casa su casa. I remember me and the other openers, like he would open up his guitar pedal drawer, and all of us were just like, he was very, very arms wide open, like my tour family is your tour family, and it was just, and he's also like the optimal prankster, and so that's when I learned what tour pranks even were. And we had a number of good tour pranks go on. i
What
i
were they?
know they pulled some on me too. Like I have a song called Criminal, and they built like a jail around me in the middle of a song,
Mm.
and then by the end of the song I was like in singing in a prison. And I bought this little toddler truck that you buy at, well, Toys R Us isn't a thing anymore, but you know, those little trucks that toddlers drive around. And I sat on it, and my knees were like up at and I was like driving it around stage. And I drove it out on mud on the tires. And on the back, I put a sign that said "Got Mud." And so Brad was like kicking this thing around. And yeah, so I think back on that tour as just so much fun. Brad is like the best human and just knows how to have fun on the road.
Did he make you a guitar? Did I read that somewhere?
Yeah, he did. It's one of my favorite guitars ever. I can show it to you actually.
Yes, please.
I call him Herbert. He relicked it himself, which relicking is an art in itself. But you freeze it and you put it in the fire, and he like relicked it completely himself.
Oh
And
my
so
God.
I called him Herbert because he looks like sherbert. But yeah, the detail on it is pretty incredible. And
That's
he
so
hangs
cool.
in my studio every day. Yeah. But
What an epic gift.
yeah, Brad is so cool. He would also do things like rent out a movie theater after the show one night, and was just like, everybody, I've rented out the theater. Have as much
What's
popcorn as you want, and we're gonna watch a movie. Or we like went and he rented out like a go-kart rink after the show. So this is at like 1 a.m. We're like driving go-karts around, and it was such a cool way for me to learn of what you can do.
mm,
um when if you're lucky enough to be that successful, like you can really take care of your people, and you can have a good time while doing it.
yeah, that's super cool. Yeah, I feel like uh, team culture on tours is not something that's often paid a lot of attention to.
Yeah,
I mean, a lot of times tour can kind of be brutal, for especially like the lower budget tours. But it's really cool when you see a leader of a team or an artist in this case taking initiative to make it a really fun experience and like, making sure that people are comfortable and also enjoying it and creating memories. That's cool.
totally,
Yeah.
totally.
I also read somewhere that you paint your own guitars. Is that true?
Yeah, I painted a bunch for my first album, The Project.
Hmm.
uh I'm not a good painter whatsoever, but I love it. I think that sometimes it's really good to do creative things that you're not good at, because it helps your brain try to solve problems that it's not used to. And I find it like helps stimulate even songwriting and stimulate the things that I do every single day. And so I can show you a few of them. I painted a bunch of guitars over the years. This was the first guitar I painted, and Fender ended up making me a version of it that I could take on the road, because I painted it, and then I would play it so much that paint would chip off of it. And so her name's Betty Van Halen, because it's similar to Eddie's,
Yeah,
just from like the tape that he put on it. But yeah, this was the first one that I ever painted. And
that is so
yeah, she
cool.
hangs in my studio.
And
And
is it
then I
latched on
painted
top?
this one is because because yeah, Fender are so sweet to me, and they made a version with lacquer on top of it. But I painted, I mean, I spray lacquer on mine, but I'm no professional um
Yo, look at
painter.
that.
But this is a guitar I painted. His name is Jeremy. And yeah,
I feel like most of your
gosh,
guitars have male names.
well, yeah, because most guy guitar players name their guitars girl names. And I'm like, so I'm gonna name my guitars guy names. I have a few girl guitars for sure. So
Like Betty.
I don't know what
Yeah,
that says. I love everybody. But yeah, I name a lot of the guys. So yeah, this is Jeremy.
that's awesome.
And
I love it.
yeah, I love painting guitars. I actually am gonna get back into it. I feel I just feel things rippling sometimes. I paint a lot too. Like, oh my gosh, I'm just showing you everything. Like I painted this the other
I love
day.
show and tell. Yeah.
This
Wow,
is
check
like
that
show
out.
and tell. I'm like, what is happening? I don't know. I just like I
Lindsay,
really
that's a
like to
very nice
try.
painting. You made such a nice painting. Thanks for
Thank
bringing
you
it to
so
class.
much. God bless. Yeah, this is just my art studio, it feels like, and there are a lot of different things that happen in here.
That's awesome. Do you
So yeah,
self-produce your early demos, or are you pretty much always working with a collaborator when you're producing stuff?
both. You know, I love producing myself. I also feel that producing is such a gift and is such a responsibility too. Figuring out what a song needs to say and how it needs to say it is such a responsibility. And so I have been very like I've chosen my producers very particularly, like throughout my whole career. My first records when I was really young, I produced by myself, obviously, and then my first record I released once I signed my first deal in Nashville was The Project, and I worked with Christian Bush on that one from Sugarland. And Christian taught me so much, like learning from him and just how much of a true artist that man is. And of course now Christian has had so much success working with Megan, and as a producer, I'm just so proud of him with everything that he's been working on. But then I did Heart Theory with Dan Huff, who
One
one
of the
of my
best.
guitar idols, and it was unbelievable to work with Dan and make a record with him. I still listen back to that record and I'm just like, every square inch of that record is perfect, just because Dan
Yeah.
is so good at his job. and
That's right.
and um and who am I to think that I could produce something when I like work with people like that. um and then these last records, I've been working with a gentleman, Doug Schott. He lives in New York, and we've been having so much fun in the studio, like crafting this sound um, and
Mm.
really, you know, chasing whatever sound we want to chase, whether that's a keyboard thing or a synth thing or a guitar thing. And it's felt very freeing to be able to create in an environment like that. And so moving forward, who knows what I'll do? You know, I love working with really talented producers and having them in the room. And also I've been loving making some music myself. And often from a writing room standpoint, I usually try to start an idea myself, and then I bring it into a room sometimes with some of my favorite co-writers, and then it sort of grows from there.
Oh, interesting. So you don't when you're co-writing with someone, you don't start with a seed. You come in with like or you don't start from scratch. You start with a seed and then sort of like develop it in a co-writing setting.
Every song is different, I will say that. Like there are many songs that I've started with just an idea. I want to write a song about this today. I want to write a song called Magic.
Yeah.
And then I'll write that song. But my favorite way to write recently has been, yeah, really crafting a song first, like crafting an idea. And oftentimes I find that's where a song lands like most authentically too, is when I can just sort of channel something and know that it has a lot of rough edges, and then I can bring in an idea that is sort of seated already, you know, at least it knows kind of where it wants to sit. And then being able to like polish something has felt more um a way to like write songs that feel more cohesive
Mm-hmm.
compared to just like trying to chase like a bunch of things
Mm.
and a bunch of random ideas. So that's the way I've been enjoying mostly right now. Like sometimes I'll walk into a write and just be like, I have this idea and let's start it from scratch. But yeah, generally I try to walk in with a formed mosaic, a paper mache, really ugly paper mache thing. And then we make it look
It's a
pretty.
really nice paper mache, Lindsay. You made a very nice paper mache.
Thank you so much. I try my best.
That's cool. Yeah, I like that approach. I like that approach a lot because I think it can also be kind of intense to get into a writer's room and have like nothing but an idea and sort of try and trust fall into one another into something. Obviously, it's a beautiful thing to be able to do, but it's also nice to have a seed that is that's well formed enough to kind of get into constructive mode about it.
Yeah, I've obviously had lots of the latter too. But sometimes as an artist, when I'm writing for me, it's hard to navigate. Okay, is that what I do, or does that feel off from what feels like me? And sometimes it's hard to navigate those things. And so in the room, you can say yes to a whole bunch of things and then end up writing a song that just doesn't feel like it's a coat you can put on anymore. It doesn't feel like it
Mm.
fits you. So yeah, I've had a little bit more success like having uh, an ugly
Yeah,
paper mache statue that I bring in.
I love it. That's cool. Um, what does the next year look like for you? What creative projects are you excited about? Yeah,
Great
talk to me about that.
question. I mean, I'm in the middle of a tour right now. I'm so excited about getting to bring some of these songs to life, and it's felt so good. I'm touring with a band called the Somerset coming up here, which I'm very excited about. I think they're so awesome, and I'm really excited to be out on the road with them. I'm working on another full length. It's sort of always this cycle. It's like you're releasing music, but always working on the next thing. And so I'm so excited about the record I'm making right now. And then I'll be touring with Shania this summer, which is crazy. Playing Wembley Stadium. So that's going to be here before we know it,
So
and then
excited.
probably back in the studio to finish the record. So it's wild. It's February, but I know it's like going to be July before I can even blink.
100%. Yeah, it's an interesting. I imagine it's kind of an interesting dynamic to balance these two identities, like playing country arenas and also making like cool art pop music. How do you balance the two identities, and also how do you balance your time around doing both of these projects?
Honestly, like all of the Shania stuff has been so like otherworldly, and I she's just so genreless. I mean, she is herself and is like such a pop queen in her own way. And so that has just felt very cool. Every time I get to do a show with her, I'm just like, this is so cool. Um, and then getting to build my own stuff, and getting to get back out on the road and headline for the first time in 5 years, which just felt so fun, has just been so exciting. So in a way, like the two kind of support each other in ways that I would have never thought they would have. And and thankfully I've been able to work my schedule really nicely around hers. So it's been actually a great flow.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I really appreciate your artistry and appreciate you continuing to carve your own unique path and also do these epic shows. And it's inspiring. And yeah, I appreciate your time today, sharing some insights and answering my little questions.
Oh
So
my gosh,
thanks for
thank
being on
you
the
so
show.
much. Thank you always for your support.
Yeah, of course. Well, if folks want to follow up with the things that you're doing, where can they do that?
LindsayL.com, you can pretty much see everything. Or, if you're crazy enough to jump into the social world, you can always find me at Lindsay Ell. Lindsay with an A-E-L-L.
Great, great. Amazing. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time, and
Awesome. Thank
we'll
you,
see you soon.
Spencer.